carried forth by Governor Leon Guerrero, Lieutenant Governor Tenorio, former Senator Carlotta Leon Guerrero. Thank you very much for pushing through the Ayuda and its efforts, and all those who have come together to help with the recovery to support our brothers and sisters across Chuuk, the NMI, our neighbors to the north, and of course those from around our island. So I just wanted to say a few words, and thank you so much for being here, and thank you again to all of you who contribute to the Green Growth Movement, those of our young members of the council. Have a wonderful rest of the conference. Biba Guam and Biba Island Sustainability. Thank you.
Thank you, President Enriquez. Now I would like to call on Dr. Austin Shelton, the Director of the University of Guam Center for Island Sustainability and Sea Grant, and the co-chair of the Guam Green Growth Steering Committee.
Hafiday, good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for our our Green Growth Gathering. We used to just call this our biannual Guam Green Growth Meeting, but the fact is that the Green Growth Movement has grown, and we've been inviting others to join us here in Guam, and I'm so happy that we have representatives from almost all of our islands in Micronesia, and also our partners in Hawaii. Thank you all for being here. So the governor shared a little bit about when we started back in 2019. She signed the executive order to implement the 17 United Nations Sustainable Development Goals in culturally and locally effective ways. And the lieutenant governor was there to join Hawaii and other islands at the Local 2030 Islands Network launch at the United Nations in New York. And we've been moving full steam ahead ever since then to move these initiatives forward. And it's been several years now, and we've been able to do quite a bit. And the governor mentioned we have the Guam Green Growth Dashboard, so you can see all of this tracked in a public and transparent way on the G3 dashboard. We invite you to dig in there and see what's going on. But I just wanted to highlight a few things that's happening with our team. So as you're here throughout the week at our 17th University of Guam Conference on Island Sustainability, you can see how some of those start to fit together. Lieutenant Governor mentioned our Guam Green Growth Conservation Corps, our members over here from our latest cohort, number 6, right? So this means that we've had, through all of our different Conservation Corps programs, over 100 graduates now. And they are part of a workforce development program preparing our community for the emerging green economy, and they get credentials that come out of the University of Guam. They get training full-time for 5 months in agriculture, aquaculture, invasive species removal, renewable energy, ocean conservation, and so much more. So that means they get to do a lot of really fun things, like go out to our farms. Pretty soon they're going to go for that invasive species removal. That means they're going to go brown tree snake hunting at night. So that's something that I like to join them on for that. And the lieutenant governor comes out too. Invasive species are also plants, right? We have lots of partners here from the Micronesia Challenge meeting. Could you please raise your hand too, so our leaders can see who came for the Micronesia Challenge meeting? Thank you, and congratulations on celebrating 20 years. But I know invasive species are really a hot topic there, and just wanted to mention that because the governor, our governor, really does care about invasive species and cares about getting them away. When we started Guam Green Growth, she said, you know, Austin, there's one thing I want you to do. I'm sorry we haven't accomplished it yet, but we're making a little progress. She says, you know that chain of love, the cadena de amor? I hate that. So the first Conservation Corps went out and dug up the tubers. So it's this vine that is choking all the native vegetation. Luckily, it's after a typhoon, so you're not going to see too much of it. Most of it blows away, it clears the way, so it gives us a chance for some of the native plants to come back. But you got to dig the tubers out, And we found out that you could actually do things with it, like create a dye for clothing. You can make bath bombs and other things, but you could also eat the flowers. And so the governor came out to our roadside project, and she was about to eat it, but she said, are you sure it's safe? And we said, yes, the lieutenant governor just ate it 15 minutes ago, and he's okay still. And so they're both here today years later, but we're pushing projects like that forward. So just letting you know, there are solutions for invasive species, and we keep pushing lots of solutions forward with the Guam Green Growth Movement. There's actually one more quick story I wanted to share, is that how did we get inspired to do this work? So I saw this really great picture of all of the leaders of Hawaii, the senators, the congressmen, the governor, the mayors of the different islands. They were all sitting together, committing to the Aloha Plus Challenge, that they knew that sustainability was a bipartisan issue. This is for everybody to be a part of. And we wanted to do something similar for our island, and that's how we got that invitation to New York at the United Nations. And the governor and lieutenant governor said yes to that. But as I dug in more and learned about the history about the project, the Aloha Plus Challenge and Hawaii Green Growth was actually inspired by something else from our region, and that was the Micronesia Challenge. So Micronesia Challenge is something that all of the heads of state from our region have agreed to now 20 years ago. The goals have increased, I believe, to protecting 50% of our nearshore resources, 30% of our terrestrial resources. That inspired the Caribbean Challenge, the best challenge in Europe. It's inspired Hawaii Green Growth, and now green growth has come back, looped back around full circle to us in Guam, and thanks to our partners in the Marshall Islands, in Palau and CNMI, they have also started their green growth initiatives, and hopefully soon we can find our partners in the FSM that we can assist you in any way that we can to launch your formal initiative too. So lots has been happening over the past few years, and there's a lot more to do. We're going to keep on creating the future that we want to see. Sustainability sometimes gets very complicated with all of the science and the work that we're doing together, but it really is very simple. Sustainability is living on our islands like we intend to stay here. And so there's something for everybody in that. That's why there's 17 Sustainable Development Goals. President Enriquez mentioned that it's something that we've already been doing, and she's absolutely right. It's that we're not implementing Sustainable Development Goals because the United Nations told us to. That's simply a framework that we get to highlight the bright innovation and the bright initiatives from here in our islands and help it make sense to the rest of the world so that they can see that the solutions have been here the whole time. So, Sejuas Ma'asi, everybody, thank you for the work you're doing. Biba Island Sustainability, Biba UOG, and Micronesia and the Pacific.
Thank you, Dr. Shelton. Now I would like to welcome to the stage our featured speaker. We are very honored to have the Honorable Angel Demapan, the Deputy Assistant Secretary for Insular and International Affairs at the United States Department of the Interior.
Thank you very much, and good morning, hafa yakwe, and aloha to our guests. I'm not as gifted as all the speakers before me, so I'm going to stand behind the podium. But I want to pay my respects to Governor Liu, Lieutenant Governor Josh, and also recognize the University of Guam President, Dr. Enriquez, my really good friend, the Vice President, Dr. Hernandez, Dr. Shelton, and my aunt, Fran Castro. She left her name off my list, so I'm putting it on. But before I begin, I first want to say, Jesus Masi, and in the Northern Marianas, we also say Hiliso to Governor Liu, Lieutenant Governor Josh, and the people of Guam, who have stood by the people of the CNMI in the wake of the devastation of Super Typhoon Sinlaku. I am a native son of the CNMI, and I know that my people truly, truly appreciate you all as much as I do in the efforts and the assistance that you're providing. I know, Governor, you had an opportunity to do an aerial tour with Governor Apatang, and Lieutenant Governor, I know that you were at the airport checking on our students who had been stranded from home and have just finally made it home. So I just want to say thank you, personally thank you both and the people of Guam for your support, even in the wake of Guam itself recovering from the impacts of Sinlaku. Having said that, I am Angel Demapan, and I am the Deputy Assistant Secretary for Insular and International Affairs, and also have the distinction of being the first person from the Northern Mariana Islands to hold this position, and the first. And I say that not to boast, but I say that because our youth are here, and I say that because there is belief, there is hope that any of us, no matter how small and remote our islands are, can make it to a place where critical decisions have to be made, and we can be voices that are amplified even at the national level. I'm a little bit emotional, nervous maybe, because this trip here, I'm also making my way home for the first time since Sinlaku, so I will be visiting my home this coming Saturday, where I have 2 high school children who had to weather this storm without mom and dad by their side. Nonetheless, as we gather here today, this powerful storm reminds us of so many things. The significant damage to homes, infrastructure, to local economies. Events like this remind us of a simple reality. Island communities must be prepared, must be resilient, and must be equipped to recover quickly. What does that mean? That means investing in strong infrastructure, in reliable energy systems, and in our very own local capacity. For our island communities, prosperity begins with self-reliance and economic strength. We understand the challenges, our geographic isolation, our limited resources, and high cost of living. But we also recognize the opportunity. Island communities are uniquely positioned to lead in innovation, efficiency, and resourcefulness. It is our identity as islanders, ladies and gentlemen, that identifies us as one of the most resilient people in the world. And we have responded storm and storm and storm again, that the people of the Marianas, the people of Micronesia, are as resilient as ever. Affordable and dependable energy is the backbone of economic growth. That means modernizing grids and supporting diversified energy sources that make sense for each of our islands. We all have unique needs in our islands, so each of us in our islands know what sources make sense for us. Reliable energy lowers costs for families, strengthens businesses, and improves overall quality of life. Second, supporting local food production and resilient supply chains. Recent disruptions that we see today have made it clear that food security is national security, especially for fragile island communities like ours. By investing in agriculture, fisheries, and food systems, we can reduce dependence on imports, stabilize prices, and create new and fresh economic opportunities. Strengthening inter-island and regional supply chains also ensures communities can respond more effectively in times of crisis. Third, expanding private sector growth and job creation. Sustainable prosperity is driven by a strong and growing private sector. That means creating an environment where businesses can start, grow, and hire locally. It includes reducing unnecessary barriers, supporting small businesses and entrepreneurs, and aligning workforce development with the emerging needs of industries so that our people are prepared for the jobs of today and tomorrow. And fourth, promoting responsible stewardship of natural resources. Our natural resources are among our greatest assets, and we know that more than anyone in the world. They must be managed wisely. Responsible stewardship supports tourism, protects biodiversity, and ensures that future generations can continue to benefit from the land and the ocean. Economic growth and environmental stewardship are not competing priorities. They go hand in hand. Together, these priorities form a practical roadmap, one that strengthens resilience, expands opportunity, and builds a more secure and prosperous future for our communities. At the Office of Insular Affairs, we are committed to advancing policies that deliver real results for island communities by supporting locally led solutions, investing in critical infrastructure and maintenance, providing targeted technical assistance and capacity building through our TAP program, our MAP program, and the Coral Reef and Natural Resource Initiatives, and encouraging accountability, efficiency, and long-term sustainability. We're focused on ensuring that federal resources are used effectively to strengthen independence and not dependence. Across Hawaii, the Marshall Islands, and the CNMI, and Guam, we see communities that are not defined by their challenges, but by their determination. One goal is clear: to support resilient, self-sufficient, and economically strong island communities. That is how we truly illuminate the path to prosperity, by focusing on growth, opportunity, and long-term strength. I also want to recognize our young delegates from Hawaii that are here with Mr. Paul. I met Celeste in Hawaii yesterday, and she told me about your group going to be here. I also want to recognize our delegates from the Republic of the Marshall Islands. I met Celeste in Hawaii at the former President David Kabua's funeral service in Hawaii yesterday. So pleasure to be here, pleasure to meet all of you here. And also want to say I am the proud husband of a Marshallese woman. Well, ladies and gentlemen, my time here is very, very limited. I have to leave right after these remarks. I am on Guam, actually, as the chairman of the Joint Economic Management Committees for the FSM and the Republic of the Marshall Islands, and those committees are in Guam for our GEMCO-GEMFAC meetings. And our first one is happening today, and then we have the final meetings tomorrow and Friday. So thank you, Dr. Shelton and Auntie Fran, for the invitation to be a part of this event. I really wish all of you well. And I wish the people of Guam well, and thank you all very much. Sizusmasi, Komo Tauta, and mahalo for your leadership and partnership.
Thank you, Mr. Demapan, for being here and for sharing your remarks, especially during this time. Now I would like to welcome our partner from the Republic of the Marshall Islands, Dr. Mylas Bilaman, who will speak about their nation's Green Growth Initiative.
It's nice to finally see you. Okay, good. Thank you. Yahweh. Yahweh, half a day. I'd like to, oh, sorry, half a day. I'd like to start off by acknowledging our leaders, partners, organizers, all of you who are here today. Thank you for your continued commitment in supporting sustainable development across our island communities. I'd also like to recognize and acknowledge my fellow Marshallese who are here in this room and other representatives from the Marshall Islands as well. It is also really nice to be back here in Guam. I am a graduate of the University of Guam. I graduated in 2020, so I was one of the COVID graduates. So I didn't get to march at my graduate, but I did the next best thing, which was watch it virtually. So it's really special to be back in this space to see familiar faces, and I saw that I have some of my professors who will be here throughout this week, and some classmates, so it would be very special to meet up and see what they've been doing since we last separated because of COVID. So my name is Malas Biliman, right there. I am the RMI Green Growth Initiative Coordinator. Today, I will be sharing a bit about the Marshall Islands' journey towards sustainability, focusing on our Green Growth Initiative, what it is, why it matters, and where we're heading next. And really, this journey did not start just now. It is something we've been building on over time. Last year, during the 16th UOG Conference on Island Sustainability, our president, Dr. Hilda Heine, who was a keynote speaker, signed the Blue Planet Climate Agreement. That was a big step for us because it officially commits the Marshall Islands to reaching 100% renewable energy by 2045. And around that same time, President Aine also joined the Green Growth Movement, connecting us to a broader network of island leaders working towards similar goals. Then in that same year, at the reception of the Micronesian Island Forum in July last year, President Aine officially launched the Marshall Islands Green Growth Initiative, and I officially joined in January. So this is my 4th month. Thank you. This initiative takes a whole of an island approach. It recognizes that sustainability is not just one sector. It's everything. It's environmental, economic, and social all working together. And we are not doing this alone. Across Micronesia and beyond, the Marshall Islands has joined and is working alongside Hawaii, Guam, Palau, and the Northern Marianas Islands, all moving towards a shared vision for a more sustainable and resilient future. But even with all of this, sustainability is not new to us. It has always been a part of how we live. Our ancestors took care of our land and the ocean in a very intentional way, guided by traditional knowledge, respect, and responsibility. You can see that today in frameworks like the Raymalak framework. The Raymalak framework is a community-driven conservation approach that combines traditional knowledge and modern planning to protect resources for future generations. The word Raymalak means looking ahead, or in this context, looking into the future. And that is our national area plan. What is important about it? It was built through collaboration between communities, traditional leaders, and national leaders. At the center of it is the intergenerational equity, making sure that what we do today doesn't take away from future generations. And that same idea really carries into the Green Growth Initiative. It is not something separate. It is building on what was always been there. A big part of making sure we are not working in silos is where that's where the RMI National Strategic Plan, or the NSP, comes in. It is basically the main framework that guides development in the country and how we implement the SDGs. Under the NSP SDG structure, there are 5 sectors: social and cultural development, environment, climate change and resiliency, infrastructure and sustainable economic, and good governance. Each of these bring together different ministries, agencies, NGOs, and partners. So everyone is working together instead of working separately. And right now, the RMI Green Growth is working closely with these sector committees and their members to strengthen coordination, build partnerships, and move forward towards sustainable development and priorities across all sectors. So when you look at the big picture, our approach is really about connecting our traditional knowledge with modern frameworks, and connecting people and sectors to work towards the same goals. In the end, the Marshall Island isn't just about the future. Sustainability in the Marshall Islands isn't just about the future. It's about continuing who we've always been, just in a more coordinated and intentional way. Sisus Mase, Komoltada, Jaraman.
Living the life of a gypsy musician.
Thank you, Dr. Bilamon, especially for being here and for spending this week with us. We are fortunate to welcome another Green Growth partner from Oahu. Please welcome to the stage Samantha Happ, the Network Director from Hawaii Green Growth.
I'll actually call them up anyway. Okay. Thanks, Kim. Hafide, aloha, rananim, kasalelia, lenmo, ali, mogatin, and yokwe. If I can call up our youth council, and while they're coming up, and I know we're getting couches up here too, our Kamehameha SDG Youth Council, can I have you guys come up and join us? Okay. Well, they take position. Are we bringing up any more couches now? Or no? One more couch. Okay. So before we get started, we're going to have our youth council join us, and you'll get to hear more from them later, which I know is always the more exciting part and who you definitely want to hear from. They're going to start off the Hawaii Green Growth panel and presentation with a Hawaiian oli. You'll get to hear a little bit more about the context and what this means, but I'm just going to invite them up now to start us off. So Kulia, if you want to get started as soon as you guys are all in position, that'd be great.
Hey
Mahalo. All right, so briefly, before our students leave the stage, and then we'll invite a couple more up later, this is La'a and Lenny and Kulia, and then we have La'a again, and Mahina. And we're gonna ask Kulia to explain what they just sang for you very briefly.
Okay. Aloha kako. So basically, Hano Hano Kapalama is a oli, and it talks about like the significance of Aina to us. It introduces where we go to school, Kapalama, and it talks about the various characteristics of the winds, the rains, and the Aina there. So the first line, Hano Hano Kapalama Ikalaie, it talks about like how nice Kapalama looks up on the mountain. And it just shows like how attuned our kupuna were, that they were just like so observant with everything. And then Ikawaku Kalahale, it talks about the name of the rain there. And it just shows how smart our kupuna were, because they knew like they could just like sit down like outside and they could just like feel the rain, and they'd be able to know like which rain that is. And they would know based off like the smell or like the sound it made and the way it like brushed on their skin. So yeah. And then Ka'olua Ka'olau Niu. That's the name of the wind in Kapalama, and it shows how much like our kupuna were observant, because in Kapalama there used to be like a lot of niu, which is coconut, kind of like all these baskets. And it was a gentle wind that came down from the mountains, and it would like rustle the leaves of the wind. And it just shows how like observant our kupuna were of like the plants and all the things in that area. And then Kahio na mo'opuna kanauia upuni. It talks about Kamehameha, who our school is named after. And it talks about like mo'okuaho, which is genealogy, and how we're like so closely connected to our ancestors. And then Ean ma ko na pua pawahie. It talks about here we are like the flowers, so like the benefactors of what Pawahi gifted to us. So she was a ali'i, and she founded our school so that Hawaiians could have like access to education, kind of like that one SDG, which is quality education. So yeah. Oh, mekahaha ike akua. So it talks about how like God is also like a key like role in like more modern Ike Hawaii, and how we can still like have that faith and still balance it with Ike Kupuna and not have like one outshine the other. And then Puni Kaulu Aloha, it talks about how much like aloha is important to us and making connections with other people like you guys. And yeah. Oh, and then Eola na Oiwi Hawaii. It talks about how we just want our like future generations to live on, and yeah. Mahalo.
Mahalo nui. Thank you so much, Kulia. And to our youth council, you'll get to hear from them in a little bit, but thank you guys. You can head down for now. Aloha mai pako. My name is Samantha Happ, and I'm the network director for Hawaii Green Growth. Always outshined by our youth council, so I'm very glad that they were here to start us off. They just gave us a wonderful chant, and what the connection that they'll make for us later as well is that was a chant that they did on the floor of the United Nations, or that their peers did for them on the floor of the United Nations over the past couple of years. And it's a chant of localization that really grounds the place names and values that they have taken with them to the highest floors of decision making. And so to bring that also into a space where the names of places and wind and the rains may be different, but are still shared values is something that we wanted to also bring here. Floors and halls that are more significant and meaningful to us in place than maybe the floors of the United Nations might be. That's up for debate, but certainly mean more to me personally. So thank you for having us here today. Hawaii is very honored to be here, and certainly amongst the ranks of the Micronesia Challenge, which, as Dr. Shelton was mentioning, is a wonderful year to celebrate an anniversary. So congratulations to everyone that has been a long-time steward or is even recently joining the ranks of the Micronesia Challenge. It is older than our youth council here, but it doesn't mean that we can't join that still. So thank you. I think we have a video to be queued up. It's a brief one. If we could just get that intro, perfect.
there's no word in Hawaii, in Hawaiian language, for sustainability. We do have a phrase that our team put together, he nohona ai oia, which talks about the culture of sustainability. The reason, though, we don't have a definition is in our culture and where we live, that's just part of our daily life, is taking care of the ocean, taking care of the land, taking care of that which sustains us. And so that's something that we've done for centuries, for generations. And now we're sharing with the world what we've worked on and what has worked for us. We're unique in a sense that we're not just one of the 50 states, but we're also part of island nations. And island people have a certain way of looking at survival and resilience and sustainability. And so for all those reasons, the 17 SDGs work in line with what we were already doing and that we want to continue to do. And since you mentioned the VLR, Voluntary Local Review, we are the only state to have submitted its third Voluntary Local Review. And we're proud of that because we're reporting our progress, we're finding out where the gaps are and what's working. And again, we're eager to share that with whoever else is interested in hearing it.
Thank you so much. So we just heard, and I've got a presentation queued up I'll walk through really quickly, but we're delighted to be here today to share a little bit about what's been going on with Hawaii Green Growth. And we heard just now from Maui County Mayor Richard Bisson, who was with members of our Student Youth Council at the United Nations this past July. He was referring to a big report on the Sustainable Development Goals and the Aloha Plus Challenge that we took to the UN. I'll give an update on that in a little bit. But he's really speaking to this phrase that was gifted to us at Hawaii Green Growth, he nohona ai oia, a culture of sustainability, and is referring to the fact that, of course, there is no word for sustainability, but really what the Aloha Plus Challenge, which was created back in 2014, born from the stewardship and the values of the Micronesia Challenge, was really created to be, which was bringing together the systems that have been artificially constructed over the past decades, and bringing those back into an island-centered worldview, right? So how do we make all of those systems of governance more in line with those values? And so that's what Hawaii Green Growth has been working to achieve over the past couple of years. Since we were created in 2011 as a public-private partnership, and in so we're also celebrating a birthday this year. 2011 makes us 15 years this year. So we are in our teenage stage as well. So we are ninth graders as well. So happy to be on the Youth Council. If you'll hit the next slide for me. So I've got just a couple updates as to where we've been since we were here at the CIS last year. Oh, I have the slides. I'm so sorry. That's okay. When we were on stage last year, our Youth Council members had actually woken up quite early to testify virtually for a resolution that was going on back at the Hawaii State Legislature. And it was a big deal for us because over the years, things like the Aloha Plus Challenge kind of die off in momentum. It's a big deal at first, and then people are like, oh, wait, we still have to do that, right? These goals seem really ambitious. They lose the energy, they lose the enthusiasm, but we were really pushing for a recommitment to these goals, right? We're 5 years from 2030, and they matter more than ever. And so the Senate Concurrent Resolution 183, which was a recommitment to the Aloha Plus goals, was passed in 2025, which essentially just said these goals matter more now than ever. We should be continuing to measure and track progress on them, and it was actually our Youth Council last year that testified from Guam virtually to ensure that their voices were heard on that. So we got a recommitment from our state legislature and from the governor to say, yep, keep going, and we consider that a huge win. I also have an update in terms of how we are defining ourselves that I think might be really interesting for the Green Growth Collective. And this is actually based, it's nothing crazy, but just in terms of terminology. So we have come to recognize that as we're bringing together all of these sectors, right, and Hawaii working across counties and being a part of the larger working, with the private sector and the public sector and nonprofits, as we all do in the Green Growth Collective, are realizing that we're switching language models depending on who we're talking to. And sometimes it's hard to give the one sentence, what are we actually doing? And we realized that we're working on these sort of moonshot challenges, right? When you're talking to the energy sector, the problem is different than when you're talking to the circular economy folks or the waste management problems, because everybody has a different idea of what like the biggest problem to solve is. And we realized that we're working in this space of adaptive problems, right? Where you need everybody in all of society working together to solve this single problem, but we have so many that we want to solve. And so this is an idea that everything becomes a collective challenge and a collective opportunity. And there's actually a studied word or term for this, and it's called a collective impact approach, where it means it takes more than one sector and more than one approach of how you're going to get there, and it requires adaptive problem solving. And so there are 5 principles of it, and it's been tried, tested, and proven, and there are 5 things, and we have got them all, and so do all of the green growth initiatives. So we just wanted to share that with you as we're exploring that a little bit more. The first is that there's a common agenda. In Hawaii, that means that's the Aloha Plus Challenge. You've got it in all of your different contexts too. The second is that there's a shared measurement framework. For us, that's the Aloha Plus dashboard. The third is that there are people working together to mutually reinforce those activities for the goals. So that means those are the actions that we're all taking to get us closer to the goals. The fourth is that we're all continuously talking to one another about our progress on those goals. So working groups, coordination, we're staying in constant contact. We have build trackers for our legislation and policy. And then lastly, there's an organization or an entity that's keeping all of this going, right? So we're not just relying on volunteers to send emails or have meetings, things like that. And in this case, it's HGG. So that's language that we're going to be using moving forward, and we found that that actually kind of resonates across sectors. Versus saying that you're a nonprofit in some spaces or you're a public-private partnership or things like that. So just wanted to share that update from HGG, and happy to share more for anybody interested. Just as a reminder, these are our 6 local goals that also map across all of the SDGs, and all of them are at various stages of completion in terms of their goal achievement, but we are nowhere close to being done or all the way to all of them. So we need help and we need solutions, and we are looking to especially the Micronesian region and leadership for where we can get closer to those goals. We are measuring them still across the Aloha Plus dashboard. That has not changed, but we will be making some improvements and modifications to that, which I will share with you in just a moment. We still have action groups. One that we have added is on regenerative tourism, and that is in turn coming from Hawaii's Green Fee, which I will also share a little bit about as well. And we also look to our youth council for more of how we can involve youth in decision making there. And then a few of our activities that we've been up to over the past year since we've seen you last. We've really gotten involved in a green stormwater retrofit program, which is really how we take the excess runoff from flooding events, and we look into nature-based solutions for that. So we're looking into all different sorts of opportunities and programs to partner with schools for rainwater assessments, for gardening programs. We work with local homeowners for the installation of rain barrels. We can also measure rainwater assessments at the homes to see what the appropriate GSI or green stormwater infrastructure will be for each community. So we can actually measure what annual rainfall in certain communities is, and then how we can put in the appropriate solution. This is happening at the hyper-local level, so we can look into neighborhoods to see where drought conditions are happening and where flooding conditions are happening, and how we can use nature-based solutions to be the right approach for communities, for households, for schools, and the like. So that's one HGG-led initiative that is relatively new. The next one is at the county level. So we are working with Maui in response to the Maui wildfires in 2023 to do holistic watershed management and wildfire mitigation. So we're working with the farmers and the ranchers and Hawaii Wildfire Management Organization, as well as the watershed partnerships, to bring together people that of course are already working together, but are now working together in a more cross-sectoral way, both at the policy level as well as in the watershed management level to both convene as well as to talk about what the needs are within their boundary lines and to make sure that those policy priorities are being taken into consideration at the state level, at the county level, and within the community level as well. And then lastly, at the state level, we are building community capacity in a couple different ways. We are leading regular workshops for policy advocacy, for engaging our young people in that process, in the legislative process. We are running grant writing workshops for community. We're also running GIS and data collection workshops, working with our local universities to run our dashboard lab program. And to ensure that we're making sure that our next generation has ample opportunities for helping our change across our systems. And then, because today is technically the 22nd here, well, it is the 22nd here, it's Earth Day here, but it's a day ahead for Hawaii. We are launching Hawaii Green Growth's new strategic plan in Hawaii tomorrow. And so we will be doing 3 new things for Hawaii Green Growth moving forward. The first is that we will be a weaver, which is technically what we've already done, but functioning in a weaver capacity. And to do that, we will be establishing a physical hub so that we have a community hub space for folks to come together and take direct action on all of the goals. So that will be one new thing that we are doing. And we will be also launching a systems storytelling arm of our organization. We'll also be transitioning the dashboard to be focused less on progress towards the goals and more on where our gaps are. Because a lot of what we're seeing is, okay, we're making progress where we can, but the tension points are actually on where are our goals at conflict with one another, right? In a small island space, your energy grids need to go where your food production needs to happen. And so where do we bring those folks together to have those conversations? So our dashboard will reflect that, and then we will also bring together folks to have conversations to then drive decision-making processes around those goals, not just on the progress report cards. And lastly, we will bring together pathways for action, so on-ramps, people that are like, but how do I get involved? We're creating those pathways. And one of the main ways that we are going to do this is we're going to create an Aloha Plus Goal Fund to fund these projects directly for community. So that's our new plan. More to come on that, and it'll launch officially tomorrow, so you'll be able to see more on that. But enough about HCG directly. I want to just spotlight for just a moment some of the sustainability leadership that's coming out of Hawaii more broadly. And this is stuff that HCG has been involved in, but you might have heard of beyond that. The first one is a huge nod to Palau and to other island leaders. In the past year, we passed Act 96, which is Hawaii's green fee. And so this is essentially a tax on hotel and short-term rentals. It's a 0.75 percentage point increase on our hotel stays, which in turn funds climate resilience, environmental stewardship, and sustainable tourism in the state. And this will approximately yield $100 million each year through this transient accommodations tax by doing so. So the green fee has taken effect as of January 1st, 2026. And the funding is expected to be allocated at the end of the legislation cycle, which is in a couple weeks of this year. So we'll get to see where those projects will be funded. The governor of Hawaii created a council of experts to help make those funding recommendations for Hawaii and helped us determine where those will go. Yeah, big deal, right? The next thing, I mentioned this a little bit earlier, Maui Mayor Bison and the Youth Council, along with Hawaii Green Growth, took the Voluntary Local Review, which is our report of Hawaii's statewide progress on the goals, both local and the SDGs, to the United Nations this past year. So that's not just an HGG effort, that is a statewide effort. So we took all of the county progress, the statewide progress, and then tons of local organizations, their bright spots, to really highlight Hawaii's progress and leadership to the UN, to the floor of the UN. And we also did this in Olelo, Hawaii, to make sure that native language is considered a policy language on the floor of the UN as well. And then lastly, just wanted to highlight our youth leadership. So if you're not familiar with the Navahine versus the Hawaii Department of Transportation case, I highly encourage that you look that up. While HGG can take no credit for that, that was a really landmark case in terms of youth leadership. And the settlement actually ensures that youth have the right to a clean and healthy environment moving forward. And that ensures that the Department of Transportation will make sure and is held accountable that their plan for emissions regulations in the future is both informed by youth accountability and oversight, but is making sure that the youth will have a clean, and healthy environment moving forward. And then we also have the Youth Council, which has gone both statewide in terms of their peer-to-peer activation, regional and global. We're so lucky to have them today. And because of their efforts, there have been schools across the state that have created youth councils within their own school, and then have been able to advocate for decision-making. For example, in Lahaina, which is where the wildfires happened, because of what these students have created and because of peer-to-peer activations, they've created their own SUG Youth Council within their school to advocate for scholarships, for a fire mitigation fund and response fund, and have actually gone to the state to advocate to decision makers that they want to sit on the education board to ensure that resilience is integrated into their education programming. And that's because of what these young people have done within their peer communities. So we really applaud them for their efforts. And you've heard from me for far too long. So what I'm going to do now is invite up my Hawaii-based colleagues to come on up and join me for a quick panel to hear about how they are experiencing sustainability through their work and leading sustainability through their work and through their scholarly experiences. So if I can please call upon Kulia again and La'akea and Darren Lerner and Francois Rogers. If you'll please join me up on stage.
I literally can't. Yeah. I got one for you.
Yay, thanks for coming. You guys all have mics? Perfect. Yeah, that's great. Okay. Thanks all for joining me. I am certainly now in much better presence, and I will keep my talking to a minimum. But I'm joined up here by Francois Rogers, the Executive Director of Blue Planet Alliance. So as you can see the goals up on the screen, Francois represents maybe our clean energy transformation, if I could assign people to goals, but because we're getting on a silos, you're all of them, Francois. Dr. Darren Lerner, who is the director of Hawaii Sea Grant. So grateful to have you here. And Darren, would you be Natural Resource Management? Could we say that? Okay. Yeah, great. And then, of course, our Hawaii SUG Youth Council coming from Kamehameha Schools. We have Kulia and La'akea. Thank you so much for being here, who represent all of them, right? So, right, not even going to sector silo you all, but you are still in school, so maybe the green workforce and education feels appropriate there. So I'm only saying that in terms of the question that I first have for them, which is the conference theme is about pathways to prosperity. And so I'm curious, based on your own lived experience, both now living or being born in Hawaii, and how you all, this is a question to all of you, we can start maybe Francois at the end there, how you would define your vision for prosperity in Hawaii for the future, and how that is also defined by your sector of work. So how do you see that happening for both like energy and for Hawaii for the future?
Well, thank you, Sam. I thought you'd go from the younger ones, but I guess the older ones will speak first. My name is Francois Rogers. I'm the Executive Director for Blue Planet Alliance. Many of you probably have seen me on the stage before. I get my 5-year chip mark for attending 5 in a row for CIS, so thanks for having me again. You owe me a beer, friend. No, just kidding. Yeah, so I think the theme is very important for us to reflect on where we're headed to with everything happening around the world today. And specifically, I live in Hawaii. I've been there since the 80s. I've been with this Blue Planet organization for the last 20 years or so. The changes we've seen, things that needs to happen, I think at the basic core of our conversation, it is really important for us to understand that having a goal going forward is really important. Making sure that there is a future that we look forward to aspire to. Having you guys here is really important. I jokingly say that I'm in my mid-50s now. If our goal line is in 20 years from now, I will be in my 70s. So naturally, I'm going to have to start looking towards the next and the next generation to carry this torch going forward. But the responsibility that the decision-making that is on our hands today, to that point, is all based on the decisions we make today will affect generations that are coming, even the unborns that are coming. So what is the proper decision that we make today that's going to change the life, or in other words, set your future going forward? So that is what I see for Hawaii and the rest of the world, as a matter of fact, because if we don't do the right thing today, make the short-sighted decisions today, that's going to affect generations to come. And so our job at Blue Planet, and for most of us here, is that how do we make that decision so that the future of each jurisdiction is secured and we have a prosperous future in those years to come.
Yeah, thanks, Francois. And I know you've said many times too about the balance between the short-term versus the long-term thinking, right? And so how do we care for the needs of today without compromising, right, the long-term? And especially with our energy goal, which is a 2045 commitment, right? We've got 5 years to 2030, but we're also holding in tandem and in balance the 2045 energy commitment. So it's both and will not be in their 70s in 2045, so they will still be very young, and I'm sure they would like to have clean energy then too. So thanks very much. Darren, over to you. Prosperous futures, and what does that look like in your line of work and in Hawaii, in your mind?
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, everybody. Thanks to our hosts that, since, I guess, last night when I found out I was on the panel with you about
Great heads up.
prosperity.
Both of us.
Yes. No, but I mean, with the theme that was established some time ago by Austin and everybody working here, and what does prosperity mean? And, it really is an individualized thing, I would offer. It's exciting to be here with all of you, to be working towards a common goal of what we see and think to be prosperity. Sam mentioned, lived experience, and for many people here, the lived experience of growing up in the islands, and from whichever island that many of you have come from, an opportunity that I didn't have. And when I think about prosperity, I also think how thankful I am that all of you allow me to work in this space and among the islands. I have ancestors who had a very different idea of what prosperity was, and their ideas made fundamental changes to this region in particular. So it's a privilege, really, to be in this area, to be able to work towards these goals and work towards this kind of common thinking of what is prosperity. Looking at, and Sam handed me natural resource management, which actually works really well. She probably knew that because she's super smart. At Hawaii Sea Grant, we have been digging into a really big project that is referred to as Pilina Moku. And so we're weaving together the moku, the districts across Hawaii and the Hawaiian Islands. And in particular, for our funding opportunity, we wrote to work in 5 moku in particular across the islands. And it is very much about how do we increase resilience. And really, that is equivalent to the prosperity of our people and our communities. And there's no doubt, and it was mentioned a number of times today as well, it really does come down to self-sufficiency, I would offer, both as an individual, as a household, as a village, as a moku in Hawaii, as an island. But it also depends on all of us across the islands. I think about, I don't know, riding a bicycle. You have a bicycle chain. The weakest link is where we need to focus, and we need to help those that are struggling so that we are all at the same place to build that self-reliance and prosperity for all of us. Yeah, thanks.
Thanks, Darren. You did really well for 12 hours notice.
Was up all night.
You guys you couldn't tell, right? He didn't have to out himself. I'll turn it over to you guys. Same question, but whomever wants to go first. Prosperity for the future. What do you think that looks like for Hawaii? And could you maybe also talk a little bit about the journey that you've been on at KS in terms of the Ka'amaloa pathway, if you feel comfortable sharing about it too, and how that's informed your vision of what you want it to look like for the future?
Prosperity, for me, I think it's like ea. And ea in like English is like sovereignty. So I think being like self-sufficient and just like having that reclaimed sovereignty over like our food and like our daily choices is really important. And I really liked how you talked about like having a common goal between all of us and like us working together. So yeah, I really appreciated that. And I think that it's important that we go to like Lo'i and we get in there and we really work towards it like together. And then there's a olelo no eau that I learned from my kumuhula. It goes, "Nā vai ka ole o ke aka mai, I ke ala hele." Actually, I forget. But anyway, it's like, who is such a fool to not travel on the path of your ancestors? So it's like just doing what they do because it's gonna work out, and then just like adapting to like today's modern like technologies and ideas and applying it, but still using that traditional knowledge to like move forward. So yeah.
I will start by talking about my journey on Ka'amaloa. So I joined as an 8th grader. I was at Kamehameha since kindergarten, and I think it's like really interesting because from that point when you're like 5 or 6 years old, you're already just in this community where that like importance of the land and the love that you have for the land is just such a ingrained thing in how you are. And it's kind of funny for me going other places and seeing that that's almost something that you have to teach other people that's important, and you have to show them that it's a part of how we are, because it's just been something that as indigenous communities or native communities, it's just like what you know, because it's just been how things have been. And I joined Ka'amaloa with that in mind, knowing that it's something that was so important to me that I was going to have an opportunity to learn more about and to be able to share about. So I'm just incredibly thankful for getting to go on this journey and all of that. I think prosperity is such an interesting goal through a native lens, because prosperity was never a goal for our kupuna. It was just how they were. Because prosperity to me is creating a world that not only you benefit from, but that benefits from you. And I feel like that's not something that everybody understands the worth of currently, because I feel like people just see the land and the aina as something that you can just take and take and take from, that you don't really need to give back to. And that's not true at all, because from the beginning, it's been a reciprocal relationship where you put good into the aina gives good to you. And I think that the goal of prosperity stems from that, just never losing sight of that care and that relationship that you have, because I feel like once you lose sight of that you almost lose sight of everything else, because that's like your North Star. Like, you should always know that what's guiding you is everything that got you to where you are. For me, it's the land, it's the people, it's the love that they have for me, and all the effort that they've put into getting me where I am. And if you lose sight of that, you don't have anything. So in terms of prosperity, I think that prosperity is although it's an interesting goal, it's incredibly important for the world that we live in now. And the only way that you can reach that is by having that, not just a global mindedness, but you have to have a lot of worth and attention to your ike kupuna, because the things that you learn are never just you. Like, I feel like as Native people, the lessons that we learn that tie into our culture, to the land, or things like that, it's never just an isolated thing. It comes from generations and generations of people that came before us, from our kupuna to our parents to now, and it goes into the future. And setting the steps forward for a prosperous future means just always seeing the importance in that.
Yeah. Beautiful. Poets among us, truly. And they mentioned, Kulia and La'a mentioned their journey that they've been on, which is Ka'amaloa Pathway. It's what the students at Kamehameha schools and much of the inspiration at Hawaii Green Growth has taken, and I owe all the credit to Kumu Paul Parrish here and his colleagues that have created this. It is a journey from the Lo'ikalo to the United Nations. It's the local to the global that we've really actually taken a lot of our inspiration from at HGG. I invite you, if you're interested, to have conversations with them throughout the week. But it is that shared vision of prosperity, of reconnecting back to Aina and sharing that vision globally. So thank you for explaining that and connecting that. And maybe my last question, and we'll wrap it up because I know we're getting close to time here, and I'd love to start with you, La'a, and this is a question that I didn't give in advance to Francois and to Darren, so full transparency here, but I know that our young ambassadors can kick us off, is in the spirit of ancestry and what we want to see, what is one piece of Ike kapuna, or like wisdom from the past, that we must carry forward in the future for sustainability? And what is one thing that you want your generation, right? So we got Gen Z here, and I'm not going to categorize the people to my right, but your generation, what do you want your legacy, what do you want your commitment to sustainability to be? And I will, forgive me in advance, I will keep you all to like 30 seconds. But I'm going to give ladies first the privilege here.
Thank you. I think that the main thing that I want our legacy to be as our generation, is that we have so much accessible to us as pathways for change for the future. Not just for the future, but for us currently. We can make change that will affect us in our lives. Change doesn't always have to be some faraway thing, and most times it's not. But we are given so many opportunities for change, and we can't lose sight of that. We can't get so wrapped up in like our lives and what we could be doing that we lose sight of what is in front of us. And I think the main legacy that I want to pass forward is that we can't let ourselves be helpless. We need to make that change. If you see a problem in your community, it doesn't have to be a thing where you just sit with it and you're just stay upset by it and you don't do anything. And I feel like that's something that was hard for the people, some of the people that came before us, where now we have so many different outlets of outreach and creating change that we see a problem and we're like, okay, and now what are we going to do about it? It's not a thing where we're like, oh, that sucks. We we get to make that change, and I want that to be our legacy that we pass forward, that the people that came before us put so much work and time and effort into getting us here, into creating that pathway of change that led us to where we are, and we can't let them down. We can't let them think that all of that was for nothing, as we have all of these opportunities and we do nothing with it. And I want that to be the legacy that we pass forward, that we are the ones that create change, and that should just keep going. It should never just be us, it should be everybody.
Yeah. Kulia, over to you.
For me, it's Loina Hawaii, or like Hawaiian values, because those like values that our kupuna had, they will always lead back to sustainability and aloha aina. So if you just like stick with it and you make sure those are passed on, no matter like what happens within the world, like those values are gonna guide you and it's gonna lead to a more sustainable future. So yeah.
Darren, we're ready to take that on?
Sure, I'll keep it short. You know, and that is, if I've learned anything in the 20 years that I've had the privilege to live in Hawaii, then it really is that when we talk about Aina, we're talking about Aina, the ocean, the atmosphere, the people, the community. It's all one thing. And I would say the other fundamental piece is it's about relationship. And we see that here today. We see that here every year at this conference and at others across the Pacific region, and the way the Pacific region comes together. So Aina and relationship.
Francois,
I got lost on the question, but the question is, sorry.
what do you want your generation's legacy to be? What are you taking forward from the past?
Sorry, when you said 20 years in Hawaii, I was calculating my 40 years in Hawaii, so I was getting lost over there.
And that we're Gen Z plus.
Oh, okay. We're
go back a
labeling
couple
each other
letters,
now. Okay, got
guys.
it. Yes, this is why we're on this couch, not there. Yeah, again, it just goes back to what we're trying to do today. I think for us, we have the responsibility to make sure that there is a foundation going forward. Accountability is a huge part of this, right? Like all the metrics that Sam is putting together and learning where we're at today, where do we need to go forward. But it doesn't always mean that is the only solution going forward. Technology advances, culture has to be preserved. Different generations are born into the system, and everything is shifting so dramatically. So to me, having the long-term vision is truly fundamental in what we do, but also making sure that we're diligent and keeping track of what's going forward. But if you look at it from a global perspective, and everybody included in this room, we mentioned Marshall Islands, we mentioned CNMI, Guam,